guys, welcome back to Believe in Eagles. I'm your host, Leigh Mayock, and with us is a former 10th round draft pick, former NFL draft guru, former NFL GM, and current dad to me, Mike Mayock. Hi, Dad. How are you?
I'm good, honey. How you doing?
Good. What do you think of the draft? We haven't talked. We saved it for the pod. That's what we do now, guys. We really haven't been talking that much because we're save it for the pod.
You know, it's funny because you call me a former Pittsburgh Steeler, and when I got drafted by the Steelers, it was in the 10th round. There were 12 rounds back then, and I got drafted, and they called me and they told me and all the stuff, and I got to Pittsburgh, and the PR guy said to me, "Is there anything we ought to know about you?" And I said, "Well, I'm sure you guys know my dad was drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers." And they were like, "What?" Because back in the 1950s, and your grandma, Nan, had in her scrapbook the Western Union telegram to Pop notifying him that he had been drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers. So back in the day, not only was there no money, and Pop went into coaching, he didn't even report to training camp. He went into coaching because it paid more money than going to the NFL.
How long did they have to wait from when a team made a decision for them to what is a Western Union? Is that mail?
That's a good question. And got to understand the draft was not a deal back then at all. It was no big deal in the 50s. And
did they just so what was it? Did the GMs get in a room and they called each other? What did they do?
It was the owners pretty much getting in the room. And the first couple times, if I remember correctly, they met in Philadelphia. Bert Bell was the commissioner, and he had Philadelphia roots. And basically, a lot of them just went off the football magazines that year.
What's a football magazine? What's happening?
There was all these magazines about college football, and they would read them and say, "Oh, a kid from Villanova, we'll take him in the 20th round." Pop went the 25th round or something to the Steelers, and Western Union was a way back in the day to send messages to people all over the country. There was no such thing as text messages, and the phone. It wasn't about a phone call. It was an official notification that was quicker than the U.S. mail, but you had to go. You had to go to the telegraph office to pick it up, basically. So anyway.
someone would say, "Hey, Pop, you have a telegram at the post office. Yeah. Come get it."
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And so Nan kept it forever. We still have it.
When you were waiting to be drafted, how were you just in your living room? Was it on TV then? What did you do?
It was a 2-day draft process back then. 12 rounds. I think the first 6 were the first day, and it was the middle of the week, a Wednesday, Thursday. And ESPN, Mel Kiper, I forget, but I don't even know if Mel was around then, but it was not a big deal. And I was the captain of the baseball team at BC. So we had games both afternoons. So I was hoping to go in the 3rd round, and I was sitting by the phone, and this was at BC with my roommates at BC, sitting there hoping it would ring. And the first day it didn't ring, and I ran out. We had a home game that day, and I was pissed. And the Giants had a pick in the 7th round, and they called me that night and said they were thinking about taking me in the 7th, and blah, blah. I was like, yeah, let's go. And I'm sitting around, and nothing happened. And I had literally had to go to play Harvard in a baseball game at Harvard, and the bus left without me while I waited for a call. I told the coach I was going to wait till the last minute, and somebody lent me a car to drive to Harvard, and I was pissed. And I'm walking. So
they didn't call you before you left for the game?
Well, no. Here's what happened. I'm walking out of my apartment. I'm standing at the door. The elevator to go down to my apartment complex, and I'm pissed that I didn't get drafted. They're in the 10th round, and I didn't get drafted. All of a sudden, one of my roommates comes screaming around the corner, Mike, the Steelers are on the line. Let's go. We got to get back. I'm like, that ain't funny. I'm not that. I thought they were making
not a prank. Ugh.
Yeah, I thought they were pranking me. And I was like, get back here. So I ran back, got on the phone. Sure enough, it was the Steelers. welcome me to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I heard this, what sounded like a bullet in the background. It was my roommates popping champagne. And I got a game in an hour and a half, a baseball game. And I turned around and I took a big swig of the champagne and high-fived everybody, turned around, jumped in the car, and had played one of the best baseball games ever played. I think I had a homer, a double, I think a couple stolen bases. I was on a high. It was
Congratulations.
Fun.
Wait, what did they call you on, though? Like, was there a dorm room phone?
That was in our private apartment, so we had a phone in the apartment.
And did you beat Harvard?
And I played. I mean, like I said, I was so excited. I played above my ability.
So I wanted to talk to you about. I've been dying to talk to you about the prank phone call that.
Yeah.
I mean, and apparently there was a bunch of them this year. I remember Cooper DeJean got one last year. It was kind of like glossed over, but this year, obviously, the main headline from the draft was that Shedeur Sanders fell a lot further than a lot of people thought. Some people were saying that they expected it. Most people didn't. But the big thing that came out of it after he was picked was that he literally got pranked at like a very, like, I mean, I just can't think of like a more malicious thing to do to someone that has like worked their whole life for a moment. And this was already, what was it, day 2 that he was waiting? And he's waiting for that call. He got a special phone so that he wouldn't get pranked. He gets prank called. It ends up being the defensive coordinator for the Atlanta Falcons' son. That came out later. And that made me think of, number one, I was so pissed. I hate it. And then it came out that a lot of people got pranked, which I think is just so messed up. Some people can say, oh, it's like kids being kids, but I just think it's disgusting. And to me, the people like pranking have clearly never really put themselves out there or tried to do anything like of note. That's just my opinion. But what, you are going to say something?
Did you see the defensive coordinator got fined today?
Well, yeah, I saw he got fined. The team got fined and he got fined.
He personally got fined $100,000.
Yes, and the team did too.
Like, could you imagine?
No, but so that's what I was going to say. Like the fact that, so the defensive coordinator's son was home, the iPad, his dad's iPad was out. He took Shedeur's number from the iPad and that's how he got it. And my thought was like, oh my God, like I wouldn't be my dad would kill, like not even stop talking to me. Like you would kill me. Like that's what would have happened. And I felt bad for his dad.
Well, did it remind you of anything with you and I?
Well, yeah, it didn't at first. And then someone tweeted it to me and they're like, Leigh, weren't you at dinner or something with your dad and he took his draft binder with him? And I was like, oh my God. So you and I were in Indy. Do you remember this? We were in Indy. You were the GM of the Raiders. I was working for Fox, I think, or NFL Network, one of them. And
I don't even think I was the Raiders GM. Wasn't I just at NFL Network?
No, this was Raiders. Yeah, I'm sure of it. And we were meeting up in Indy to get lunch, like real quick. And it was literally just you and me at the table. You had your big binder. It was like this thick that like never left your freaking side. And it was just us at lunch. You go, okay, I'll be right back when you use the restroom. And I'm like, okay. Then you get up and then I'll never forget, you look at me. Then you look at the binder on the table. You looked at me again and you grabbed that binder and you brought that thing with you to the bathroom. And I was so insulted, but then I was like, you know what? 100% I was going to look at it. There was not a world in which I was not going to look in it. I wasn't going to do anything with the information. I just like having information. So yeah, I was going to look at the binder and you were a responsible man and you knew me better than that. And you took the binder with you to the bathroom.
You had no business seeing that binder, and I was going to make sure you didn't. End of story.
I know.
End of story.
And I was offended at first, and I was like, no, he's just smart.
Well, I offend you a lot, but usually there's a reason behind it, and you don't realize it for 8 to 10 years, but that's okay.
Okay, well, we'll save that for therapy. But like, when this story came out, were you just, because like you could put yourself in that position, like were you just, what did you think about it?
Oh, there's a lot of confidential information that comes out from the NFL on main offices to a select group of team people on the teams, and of course they ask you to keep it private. And I hate when the kids get pranked. It's mean spirited. There's no excuse for it, and there really has to be an obligation of the people that have the numbers to keep it secret. And it can't get out anywhere. Not your kids, not your wife, not your best friends. It can't go anywhere but you. So that's how I feel.
What do you think they're going to do going forward? Because clearly this is a problem. That many people got pranked. It's all coming out like everyone got pranked. I
don't know what they're going to do, hon. And I think we've probably exhausted this topic. But at the end of the day, it'll probably go to a more narrow group of people.
The phone numbers, that info. Okay. Anyway, so let's get into Shedeur. What grade you had him going? Like 21 to Steelers? A lot of people did. What grade did you have on him really like as a quarterback?
I did a lot of work on him, and I had a similar grade on him that I had on Bo Nix last year. And I was apparently low on Bo Nix because he played really well. My grade was effectively a day 2 grade on Bo Nix. Okay. Same, very similar with Shedeur. Matter of fact, Jaxson Dart, all three of them were basically the same grade, which is kind of a second round grade. I thought all three of them had slightly different strengths and weaknesses, but were kind of in the same basket as far as quality and upside. So a lot of times quarterbacks get pushed up because of need, but I think what happens, and I've never met Shedeur. Obviously, I worked with his dad, Dillion, at the NFL Network for years and had a ton of respect for him as an individual. And he's a smart man. So I've never met his son. So I can't say anything about what teams did or didn't see in their individual meetings with them. I do know that, you remember Tim Tebow from Florida?
Yep.
Yeah. So he had such a following.
Tebow mania.
Yeah. And it was mania. And wherever he went, the circus was going to follow. Right. There was just going to be so much media and attention and questions. Why isn't he starting? And why isn't this? And why isn't that? And I felt like as Shedeur started to fall a little bit, the teams that needed quarterbacks were kind of going, well, we had him evaluated here. And once he gets past there, it's kind of like, do we really want the amount of attention on a quarterback that's probably not going to play for us right now? Okay. In other words, the circus comes to town just like it might with Tim Tebow. Mm-hmm. Why isn't Shedeur? How many snaps did he get? Why isn't he getting a better look? When is he going to start? Teams don't really want that kind of attention. So if it's worth it, and he thinks you think he's going to be your guy, and you draft him high, and you go, okay, that's fine. We're going to put up with all that. But I think it was a different situation, and I feel bad for the kid. But you and I talked a couple weeks ago about it, and I was kind of like, I really don't care what number he goes. I just hope he gets the right fit with the right team.
Okay, well, that's interesting because obviously he got drafted by the Cleveland Browns, and they have a very large quarterback room at the moment. Yep. So do you think this is a good fit, or can it be a good fit? He got picked in the 5th round. They chose Dillion Gabriel in the 3rd. Most teams, and correct me if I'm wrong, keep 3 quarterbacks on the roster. Is that right?
A lot of teams some teams keep 2 on the 53 and 1 on the practice squad. Some keep 3 on the 53. Mm-hmm. I think it's safe to say Cleveland will be here's what's really interesting, Leigh, is we're not even counting Deshaun Watson,
right?
And he's got an Achilles and he won't be on their active roster. But Joe Flacco's 40 years old. Mm-hmm. Okay, I think he'll be there because he was on their team 2 years ago. They know what he is. Whether he starts or backs up, he's a constant, and you know what he's going to give you. I mean, Joe is such a natural thrower of the football that when he's 70 years old, he's going to be on the beach in Ocean City, and he's going to be ripping spirals to his grandkids. Like Joe's just a natural thrower. Okay. So Joe's going to be on the team. So now you got Kenny Pickett, former first-round pick. You've got a third-round pick in Dillion Gabriel and a fifth-round pick in Shedeur Sanders. And I'm fascinated to see how Kevin Stefanski and his staff are able to distribute all the reps in off-season, preseason, training camp, games. How are they going to figure out who's who? It's going to be a little bit of a circus. There are going to be a lot of people, not just in Cleveland, but nationally, that want to see how this thing plays out. So my faith is in Kevin. I know Kevin. I think he's a really smart dude. Tommy Rees is the offensive coordinator. Known him since he was the starting quarterback at Notre Dame. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Andrew Berry, the GM, know him well. I think those three guys are really smart, and they'll figure out a good plan, but they better, because they're probably going to have to cut one of those three guys and maybe try to get him through to the practice squad. But it'll be really intriguing to see what happens with that quarterback room.
So if you're Shedeur right now, what are you working towards? What are you trying to do? Are you just trying to prove yourself to just make the team?
I loved what I heard from his dad and from Shedeur after he got picked. There was no, why did I slide? What happened? It's BS. It shouldn't. It was none of that. It was kind of like, praise God. We're excited to be in Cleveland. Let's go. And that's what it should be. Mm-hmm. Again, it's that the draft is in the past. It's all about now getting into Cleveland and proving that not only do you belong, that at a certain point, if you believe you can be a starting quarterback in the NFL. Mm-hmm. That's what the attitude has to be. Now, I was in the car this morning listening to Sirius, and I heard a report from somebody, Tony Grossi, I think they reported in Cleveland, who said that Shedeur came to Cleveland yesterday or the day before with a big camera crew that he brought with him, one of his older brothers, and I'm kind of shaking my head saying, I'm not sure that's what you want. I think that the point, if you're a fifth-round pick, no matter how famous you are, the point is to go in there with blinders on and show these people that all you care about is becoming the best team player you can be. That's all that matters.
Okay. And then, so if you were to compare Shedeur and Dillion Gabriel and the type of quarterbacks they are in the Cleveland Browns offense, what's that like?
I had a higher grade on Shedeur than I did on Dillion. Mm-hmm. Okay. I think they're both really smart, and I think they both do well in play action game. And I think that's what Cleveland's going to be. That's what Kevin has been when they've been successful, which is a downhill run game. And they drafted the Ohio State running back, Judkins, early in the second round, who's a baller, a good player. So I think their game plan is to be a downhill run team, play action, okay, off of that. And I think both Dillion Gabriel and Shedeur are equipped to be proficient in that kind of offense.
Okay. That'll be interesting to see, though. I mean, I think more people than ever were watching day 2 and 3 of the draft. I think preseason stuff will be just like that because of Shedeur and the Browns. Yep. Just sticking with overall draft, whose team draft stuck out to you in any type of way?
So you've heard me speak forever about Baltimore and the way they draft, and it doesn't matter if it's Ozzie.
They got one of your freaking favorite players in the draft by sticking and picking.
100%. Mm-hmm. And they'd love to move up and down the board. But what I love about DaCosta is that when the board looks favorable to him, he's patient. He doesn't feel like he has to go up or back. And he sat there at 27 and took Malachi Starks, who that's who I gave him in the mock draft. Mm-hmm. And Malachi Starks smells like a raven from 100 miles away. I mean, he's a dude. He loves ball. He's edgy. In the second round, they got a defensive end, Mike Green from Marshall, who I gave to Atlanta at 15 in my mock. Now, he's the kid that had some significant off-the-field issues, which is why he transferred. but he slid all the way to 59. And if they vetted him correctly and he stays, and they have an infrastructure that protects kids like that and helps them develop, he's a steal at 59. And in the third round, they got Emory Jones, a tackle from LSU, who I love, who's going to start there for 8 to 10 years, maybe not this year, but a year from now. And then I look at like Detroit. My whole thing in the draft is I love the teams that know who they are. Baltimore has known who they are for 20 years, but since Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell got to Detroit, they've been different. And the thing is, they're not afraid what people think. Like if they like a kid, they're going to go get them. And for instance, what they did in the first round, Tyleik Williams, defensive tackle at 28. Most people had him as a mid to late second round. They didn't care. They weren't like, they just take him because he plays their kind of ball. Second round, they got one of my favorite players in the draft, Tate Ratledge from Georgia, who's a dirtbag. He's a offensive lineman from Georgia who is talented, tough, played through injury, and he's a little he's the guy that's going to push you behind in the pile. He might spit some tobacco juice at your shoes. Like
so you're saying a dirtbag on the field, which is a good thing, kind of.
Oh, yeah, it's a scout thing for a little edgy.
Okay.
Okay. That's a compliment.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah. And then they traded up in the third round. They took this kid, Isaac Tesla, who nobody really knew much about. They moved up from 102 to 70, 32 spots for a kid that was supposed to go in the fifth or sixth round. And they took him in the third round. And then I read a story about Brad Holmes, the GM. He had never seen tape prior to the Senior Bowl, this kid. They walked on the field, and the first drill they saw was a wide receiver blocking drill. And this kid, Tesla, was bullying everybody. He's bullying defensive backs, linebackers. He was pushing, shoving, getting edgy. And he was like, who is that? And he went back and watched tape, loved the kid, and he moved up 32 spots to get him. So you could argue that, well, if Tesla would have gone in the fifth, why would you take him in the third? My point is they are not afraid of other people's opinions. They're going to go get their guy. They're going to move up and do it. And then they're going to go whoop your butt on Sunday with tough people.
I like that.
A lot more. Huh?
That reminded me, though, I did have another question for you. You were talking about the wideout drills and whatever. A big surprise to some people, I don't know if it were you, but the Bears taking Colston Loveland as their tight end, I think the 10th pick, instead of Tyler Warren from Penn State. Was that surprising to you? And why did they do that?
Not surprising necessarily. Funny, Daniel Jeremiah and I had this conversation a couple of weeks before the draft. He had the two of them at like his sixth best in the country and seventh, not tight end, in the whole draft.
Oh, like all players? Yeah.
Like in his top 150, I think Warren was 6 and Loveland was 7. And the thing is, they're different style players. Warren's a little bigger, thicker, stronger, not as fluid, but what a great athlete. Colston Loveland is one of those guys. He's more like a Travis Kelce, where he's smooth, really smooth, gets in and out of breaks, a little faster. So he's not going to be able to probably block as well, but he competes and he's a tough kid. So at the end of the day, both DJ and I had these two kids real close to each other. And then it comes down to a matter of fit and style for each individual team. Okay.
So that didn't really surprise you?
Not much, no.
And do you think it was the correct call for the Bears for their fit?
Yeah, and I think the other kid would have fit too. I think they're both really good players. And even if you flip-flopped it and Loveland ended up in Indy and vice versa, I think they both would have been fine.
Okay, cool. Well, I guess it's time to get into the Eagles, considering this is an Eagles podcast. It was Howie Roseman season, and he did not disappoint. Traded up one spot from 31 to 32, traded with the Chiefs for Alabama linebacker Jihadd Campbell. You, in your mock draft, you had Campbell at like 9 going to the Saints, I think. Tell us about this pick, because I know you love it.
Yeah. And like I just said about Baltimore, Howie's been fantastic at is reading the board. And I love when GMs know how to read a board. And, if he thinks he needs to go up and get somebody, he's going. Like he apparently was in conversation with the Charger at 22 to go get Jihadd. And it didn't work out. So he kind of got a little bit fortunate that it kept, but Jihadd Campbell had a shoulder problem, and then he had some knee issues that cropped up and had some teams worried. That's the reason I think he slid, is the potential concern about those injuries. But, how he reads the board, this kid is sliding right at him. He moves from 32 to 31, gives up a 5th-round pick, of which he had 4 5th-round picks walking in day one. So he gave up one of them to Kansas City and guarantees that he's going to get his guy. And this kid is like, to me, the conversation we had about Jalen Walker, about like kind of the next generation of NFL linebacker.
Yep.
He plays off the ball linebacker, but he's a really gifted pass rusher. So it doesn't matter if you rush him up the middle in the A gap or you move him outside to defensive end. Even though he doesn't do it much, when he does it, he's talented. He's got the physical traits to rush the quarterback. He also has the physical traits to drop in coverage, zone, man. He can play tight ends man to man. Does he have to get better at it? Yeah, but he's got the traits to do it. So for a defensive coordinator that's creative, which the Eagles are so fortunate to have, they can do so many things with this kid. And the key is he should be on the field all 3 downs. He is a 3-down linebacker. He was a high school defensive end. That's why he's got some edge traits. But I think you can see him all over the field. And nobody knows about the health of Nakobe Dean after he had the injury last year. This kid, to me, is just – I think they're going to have so much fun trying to figure out how and where to play him. And I think as the year goes on, like it might start a little slowly, but as the year goes on and they figure out and he figures it out, they're going to have something.
And with Zach Bond right there too.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. 2 playmakers.
Okay, so then next round the Eagles went with Texas safety Andrew Mukuba. Tell us about that guy? He seems sick on film. I saw some of his tape and I was like, ooh, okay.
Yeah. He's again another versatile piece, which Vic Fangio is going to love. He plays both free safety and nickel. So what's cool about that is you got Cooper DeJean, who's the starting nickel, but could also play safety, could also play corner. So between these 2 guys now, they've got ultimate flexibility and versatility. Like I thought they might be looking for a corner at 64, okay, because they lost a bunch of pieces outside, with Slay and the backup corner Isaiah what's his name, played a lot of snaps.
Colts?
What's that?
Was he the one from the Colts?
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah,
exactly right. But yes, thank you. Good job. I thought for a while as the second round unfolded, Trey Amos from Ole Miss was sliding downward, and he went, I want to say 61, maybe to Washington, the Eagles' rival.
Oh, great.
But I was wondering if he lasted to 64, if that would have been the pick. But Mukuba is really good, and again, gives him a bunch of versatility.
So you thought it would be Trey Amos, or what were you thinking like in round 2 for the Eagles?
I was thinking that if a certain corner got to a point, Howie might even move up and try and get him. So that tells me that he didn't try and move up to get. So I probably had a higher grade on Trey Amos than Howie did.
Okay.
But Mukuba, a lot of people thought was a late 2 to a mid 3, and that's where Howie got him.
Okay, so then you've been talking about going into the draft. We were talking about defensive tackles and edge rushers. Round 4, the Eagles picked up defensive tackle Ty Robinson from Nebraska, the 111th pick. So what was the game plan there? Tell us about him.
So during the draft, I texted you this, and you did not respond. I was quite upset.
Oh, wait, what did you texted me something and you were using a lot of numbers and math and I just didn't feel like dealing with it. I was still on the what's going on with Shedeur train, and you were trying to talk to me about like intricacies of picks and how essentially how we got 2 for 1 and something.
Yeah, so basically they had the pick number 96 at the end of the third round, towards the end of the third round, right?
Uh-huh. Yep.
Howie traded down twice and ended up at pick 111.
Okay.
So it basically cost them about 15 or 16 picks to move down twice. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
16 picks is half of one round.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
So he moved down half of one round, got 2 extra picks this year and another pick next year. So he picked up 3 extra bodies by moving down 16 slots. And
do you see why this was like a lot for me to take in text-wise?
No.
Okay.
No. I thought it was very clear and concise text that you would have responded to as the host and Believe in Eagles.
Okay, continue.
So then they take Ty Robinson, and boy, he's interesting because he was not on my initial list to do, and I was watching my alma mater, Boston College, play in the bowl game, and they played against Ty Robinson's team, and I'm watching like number 9, like a single-digit defensive tackle, just blowing up BC's line. And BC had a pretty good line, and I'm like, who is this dude? And then I went back to watch some of his tape. I mean, the guy had 47 starts. He's like 6'5", 290. Okay, he's the prototypical what is called a 5 technique, which is the defensive end in a odd front or a 34 defense. Okay, which is what the Eagles are in their base. The cool thing is he can play that 5 technique, or when you go to a 4-man front to rush the quarterback, he can kick inside and play either defensive tackle. He's 6'5", he's 290. He blows people up. He's strong. He plays with an extra gear. Like his effort and toughness is kind of off the charts. He's a little bit short-armed for a guy that's that big. So he can get stuck a little bit on longer-armed offensive tackles occasionally, but his motor's so good he doesn't stick too long. So I love the motor. I love the production. The fact that he started 47 games. I think he'll be a great fit. And they just took the 5th-year option on
Jordan Davis. Yeah, that was literally just today. Yeah, so that's $12.9 million guaranteed for the 2026 season for Jordan Davis. So they're set.
I didn't know if they were going to do that. I mean, because they could have had Jordan this year without that. He played 37% of the snaps, which is the exact same amount Major Ojomo did. So I wasn't sure they were going to pay $12 million for a guy playing 37% of the snaps. So I guess they're going to challenge him to get in great shape and play a higher number. But this Ty Robinson will make the team, and he'll be on the active 48 on game day. Okay.
So that was round 4. 5th round, we had 3 picks, including our first offensive player.
Yeah. Right.
So what do you think about the 5th round? We went corner, Mac McWilliams from Central Florida, and then another linebacker,
Mondin from GA.
Mondin, yeah, another Georgia Bulldog. That's what I was going to say. So what do you tell us about the 5th round?
Well, the only guy I can talk about in the 5th round is Drew Kendall, who was the last of the 3 picks because I didn't.
That's why in my notes I had we would talk through the 5th round so that we could talk about your Boston College guys.
Well, here are the guys left in the draft I want to highlight, and it's
okay. Tell us. Yeah. I
only talk about guys I've watched tape on.
Yeah.
Okay. So I haven't done McWilliams or the Mondin kid from Georgia.
Okay.
So I don't have notes on them. Drew Kendall, the center from Boston College, his father, Pete, was a 1st-round pick in like the mid-'90s by the Seahawks and played 14 years in the NFL. Same position.
What was he? Same position?
Yeah.
Do you think he got a phone call, a telegram? How did he get his
I'm sure he got a good call. But, so this Drew Kendall is smart, tough, played his tail off at the East-West game, had a lot of really good momentum coming out of that game. I think he had 37 starts at center. I'm not sure he can play guard, But I know late in the season, the Eagles had a couple injuries at center, had to move a lot of people around. It's nice to have a utility center if you can. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not he can make their active 48 and whether or not he can play any guard at all, which would help his case. So out of the 5th round, he's the guy. And then out of the rest of the draft, like even though Kyle McCord's a quarterback from St. Joe Prep, I haven't done his tape, so I can't. Yeah. The guy I want to talk about is Cam Williams, the 6th round pick from Texas.
Another Texas kid. Yep.
I didn't even know who he was. I was watching the Kelvin Banks, the other tackle on the left side, and the right side. This kid kept jumping out at me, and he's long, he's big, he's got some physicality, he's got some. Now he looks awkward at times. His name is Cameron Williams, as you said, and he's just a puppy. Like he declared after 3 years. Oh, he only started 1 year. Last year was his first year as a starter. He's like 6'6", 330, like long.
Last year was his first year as a starter.
Long arms, big hands, and at times he looks awkward. He change the direction. Athletes going up and under, spin, and he gets lost. Okay. And I believe it's mostly technique. I believe. So he's going to go to the University of Stoutland. Okay, along with the other 6th round pick, Miles Hinton, a tackle from Michigan. Both of them are long, gifted. And I think out of those two, and they'll end up at least one of them will hang in there, and 2 or 3 years from now could be the heir apparent to Lane Johnson whenever Lane Johnson retires. So I'm excited to see how they do with Jeff Stoutland.
Okay, cool. So overall, what do you think about the Eagles draft this year?
Well, I'm excited about it. I mean, the Jihadd Campbell thing, you got to be kidding me. Like, just off the charts. They didn't get a corner till what, the 5th. Thought that
was the first pick of the 5th. Yeah.
The only two minor surprises to me, and it's kind of how the board falls, was no corner till the 5th and no tight end at all.
Yeah.
Okay. And it was a pretty good tight end class, but what happened was the 6 best tight ends on my board, and then I had a drop off. All 6 went by about the 3rd or 4th pick of the 3rd round.
Right.
Okay. So I think I'm guessing the way Howie looked at that is that the next group of tight ends weren't any better than the 2 kids he signed as free agents in the offseason, so he didn't want to go there. So they were my only 2 comments. Like, I thought I'd see a corner earlier, and I thought I'd see a tight end somewhere. But as always, just sit back and love what Howie does.
Okay. And then I did want to ask you too, just because there was some action there, are the Eagles NFC division rivals, NFC East division rivals, did anything stick out to you in Giants, Cowboys, or Commanders drafts?
I thought the Giants had one of the best drafts in the entire league.
I know. It was so annoying. They kind of killed it.
Well, they get Abdul Carter at 3. One of the 2 best players in this draft, no doubt. They move back up into the 1st round and take the quarterback from Ole Miss, Jaxson at 25. Yep. And the key there was they didn't have to use the 1st pick in the 3rd round, number 65, to do it. They used a couple 3rd round picks. Okay. So they were able to move up into the 1st, get their quarterback, keep their high 3rd round pick, number 65, and they got Darius Alexander, a defensive tackle from Toledo, who I loved. Kicked ass in the Senior Bowl. Small school kid that works his tail off. All kinds of upside. They got the running back, Cam Skattebo, who there's
Arizona. Oh, my gosh. I've never seen his playoff game? Was it called playoffs then? That went you always see a quarterback put a team on his back and just do whatever it takes. I'm like, I'm watching a running back literally be the reason this team's even in this. It was crazy.
Yeah, Arizona State kid. And then in the 5th round, they took a tackle from Purdue named Marcus Mbow, Mbow. I don't even know if I pronounce, but I love this tape because he's a great athlete. His feet are unbelievable. Then I watched him in person at the Senior Bowl. I was stunned. He went to the 5th round. A year from now, I think he'll be starting to tackle for New York. So I thought the Giants killed it. As far as Washington, I really like their first 2 picks. They got a tackle, Josh Connerly, at 29 from Oregon. He'll end up being one of the starting tackles. and Trey Amos, the corner we talked about, one. I really liked him. And then as far as Dallas, let me see my oh yeah. So they get Tyler Booker from Bama at 12, he's a baller, tough kid. He'll help their run game. And when Dallas runs the ball, they're a handful. So he'll really help that. Then they got Dominic Ezeraku, the edge rusher from BC in the second. Most people thought he was going in the first. They got him at 44 in the second. That'll help them. And they got this really gifted corner in the third round named Siobhan Ravel from East Carolina, who kind of was a wide receiver convert. Then he got hurt this year. The reason he slid, there's not a lot of tape on him, and he comes from East Carolina. But Dallas stuck with their first, second, and third. They didn't move anywhere, and I thought they did real well with their 3 selections. So all 4 teams.
I wanted to ask you, did Dallas surprise you at all in their first-round pick? Tyler Warren was still available, and I think Matthew Golden. And I think a lot of people thought that was going to happen. I think you may have slotted Golden to them in your mock. I kind of forget. Did that surprise you at all?
Not a lot, a little bit. They're going to have to replace some really good offensive linemen. And I think when they're good, it's the same with everybody, but when they're really good, they run the ball. Their offensive line pushes people off the line of scrimmage. They're downhill. They protect their quarterback. And, yeah, I mean, it's a little sexier to take the tight end or the wide out. But this Booker kid, he's going to fit right in, and he's a little bit of a bully in the run game, and I think they needed that.
So you're saying all our division rivals did pretty good?
Yeah. Washington didn't have as many picks, but I liked their first 2 picks. The other 3 teams had a lot more picks and were able to bring in more players.
Washington also did a lot of decent moves in free agency too, though.
Yep.
So
Washington's done a great job. They've done a phenomenal job in 2 years.
Okay, well, I can't believe it. Draft is over.
Yay.
What's next?
September.
Yeah, seriously. Okay, well, thanks for draft recapping with me, Dad.
No problem. I hope you have a great day.
Okay, thanks. I'll talk to you later. Love ya.
Bye, Steve.
Bye.